Draft capital is currency, people, so spend it where it pays off. Overvalued, if we're looking at the top 12, and people will be using the sleeper current ADP, which seems like a good way to do this. Who do you like in the top 12, or who don't you like in the top 12? You feel like maybe it's a little bit of a doesn't necessarily belong in that group.
So here's what I'm seeing is Justin Fields, right? He's really high this year, and I'm here for it. I'm excited for him to finally have a full year and a new team and a starter. But I kind of feel like it's a little too high for me. It's like Bob. Do you ever notice when women are really excited about guys that are over 6 feet tall, right? And they're willing to overlook a lot of red flags for that kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm seeing with Justin Fields here. I'm seeing we're real excited about that, but I just don't know if I can overlook some of the red flags at that price point for me. I think it's just a
I
smidge too high.
I feel like that, like you can make that argument. He has done really well. I mean, it's the rushing
Mhm.
equity that people are buying, right? You're
Right.
trying to be a little edgy and get that rushing edge.
Yeah.
He's been suitable and has finished
Yeah.
higher than this as a starter. But I agree. If
Mhm.
I feel a lot better if I'm getting him cheaper. For me, the guy that I
Yeah.
don't like is quarterback six, Patrick Mahomes. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Stacey. Do you feel like maybe people are expecting a huge shift from maybe the runner heavier offense we've seen in the recent years to the back to the days when they're going deep and they're having a field day? That's my feeling. I don't know where you're
Yeah.
at on that.
I think with Mahomes, it's the name, right? It's Patrick Mahomes. You want somebody who's going to come in a Super Bowl, quarterback. He's in the Super Bowl every year, right? Whether they win or not. And so you want somebody on your fantasy team with that. But then when you're looking at his fantasy production, it doesn't really match up. I think there's other guys that you can go get that are going to give you more productive seasons, more points on the board than Patty Mahomes is going to give you this year.
Yeah, players going after him. Baker Mayfield, who's
Mhm.
finished well ahead of him
Oh,
the
yeah.
last couple of years. Kyler Murray, who has that 4,000 passing
Mhm.
yard, 500 rushing yard upside. We've seen him score 24 points a year
Yeah.
one year, 2020. And I would say Bo Nix is a guy that I like an awful lot in that
Yes.
range. And that you're getting like closer to the double digit rounds, and for me, part of that is the value you're getting. But he is inside the top 12 as well. I feel like quarterback this year, undervalued players are in great abundance. That quarterback
Mhm.
two range is like a target rich environment. Is there one you like above all others?
Oh, yeah. I actually really like, Jared Goff. I think he's undervalued. Look, I get it. He's not bringing really anything to the table in regards to his legs, but this is a guy that hit career highs last year, passing yards, passing touchdowns, 19.7 fantasy points per game. I think that was QB7 overall for him. Plus,
Yes.
look, Detroit scored 33.2 points per game last season, which was the highest in the league. So I know that everybody's a little worried about, look, Ben Johnson's gone. He's in Chicago now. What's going to happen with their offense? The new guy that came in has been with Detroit before. He's worked with Jared Goff before, John Morton. He's already been on record saying, I'm not going to make any drastic changes to this
Right.
offense. It's the same crew. Now they've got a few extra little weapons thrown in there. I love Jared Goff, especially at the value that you can get him right now.
I don't disagree with you. And I think it's easy to overlook. I thought last year the thing that he improved in greatly was his work under pressure. He had two games. I
Mhm.
want to say against Dallas. I want to say was that the Thanksgiving game
I
where
think
he was
so.
like
Yeah.
under pressure constantly and it just came up with great numbers. Then again, a little later
Mhm.
against Minnesota, he had two games where he really excelled, and that's been something he hasn't been maybe as high end at as other things. But you're right. The in the top 10 finishes or quarterback one
Mhm.
finishes have been the
Yeah.
norm with Detroit. So I like that one. I do think there's a lot of guys. If we're looking at that range, starting at quarterback 12, Brock Purdy is 12. I feel like I probably won't be getting a ton of him if guys like Jared
Mhm.
Goff, Dak Prescott at quarterback 14.
Yeah.
Remember, we're just 2 years removed from a 36 touchdown quarterback three finish for
Oh,
Dak. Justin Herbert, who finishes as a quarterback one every
oh,
year, including last year. He's going as
yeah.
quarterback 15. Drake May, what do you think about Drake May and what the Patriots have going on?
I'm really excited for Drake May. I mean, he's somebody that if I'm playing in Superflex, I wanna go get him as my second QB. I love what they've got going on, bringing in well, I guess we don't really know what's going on with Stephon Diggs now after all that drama on the boat, but, assuming that he plays, a full season and everything, you've got them. They've added some more weapons. Love Travion Henderson. I'm really excited for Drake May. He's got some legs on him. He can scoot. So I think there's a lot to be excited about if you are a New England Patriots fan.
I agree with that. I think that's totally true. There are some guys that are going way later. I'll just, I'll give you an opportunity to go ahead and throw yours out there first. But again, it seems like the guys that are available really late, there's some really
Mhm.
good upside players there. Who do you like the most in that tail end group?
Oh man, everyone's gonna cringe when I say this, but don't, okay? It's Daniel Jones, all right? And this
Oh,
is
well,
Bob, this
I'm
is
cringing.
straight vibes here for you, okay? I took him as one of my last QBs in a super flex the other day. I just don't feel real confident in Anthony Richardson playing the entire year. I think there's a real good chance that Danny Dimes comes in and he takes over that starting spot, whether it's the beginning of the season or sometime in the middle of the season through an injury, through whatever. But I just and look, am I trying to say that Daniel Jones has the same kind of talent, that Anthony Richardson does? No, right? But he's a professional quarterback. He's led a team for years. He knows how to play the position, and I don't think that you can overlook those intangible things. And I just worry that Anthony Richardson came out too early. Not enough experience there, and that has kind of hurt him in the NFL. Um, they brought Danny Dimes in for a reason. I just can't help but think that there's gonna be a situation where he's gonna start for a chunk of the season.
Wouldn't shock me. And he's a total flyer. He's off the
Yeah,
outside the top 32. So the people still drafting Richardson ahead of him. I think that's a great play. What is he? Quarterback 33,
I think
just
so,
after
yeah.
Russell Wilson at 32. I like quarterback 23, Bryce Young. I felt like the things that we saw late last season, starting with the Kansas City games, were
Mhm.
the things that we heard about when they drafted him, the ability to sort through the blitz and make quick decisions and process information quickly.
Oh,
It's got
yeah.
a great cast of weapons. I think they've
Yep.
added to that again this year, obviously, with
Oh,
Tetsuroa
yeah.
McMillan, and I still think Adam Thielen is a great
Yep.
play. We may talk about him at some point,
Oh, love
but
Adam Thielen.
but yeah, like I think again that range of quarterbacks outside the top quarterback realm is a target rich environment and one that Stacy and I will be hitting on the regular. Let's move on to the running back position. We're going to go with the top 24 as our over to pick our overvalued from.
Mhm.
Who's the guy in that running back one, running back two range that you feel like, nah.
Well, okay, so I hated putting this guy's name down when I was making my notes today because I love this player, and I just it's Bucky Irving. I
Mm.
think he is looking at everybody's looking and getting real excited over last year's value, the way he just came in, guns ablazing, and just took over that starting job from Rashad White. I think he's super exciting. I think he's everything that you want in an RB1, fast, explosive, got that make you miss, ability. But and he did have 6 top 10 fantasy finishes last year. But my concern is that where you're taking him now, if you want Bucky Irving, where you're gonna have to take him, um, it's just not gonna pay off for you at the end. There's so many weapons in Tampa, especially now that Chris Godwin is back and healthy. Then you've also got Emeka Buka, who's coming in, who looks amazing. I don't know if you've seen any clips of him. Right now he looks fantastic. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out of this year's draft. I just don't think I think what is he, running back 9, I think, overall right now?
Yeah, right now he's running back 9
Yeah.
on
I just
underdog,
I think
and I
that's a little too high for me right now, for him and where he could potentially end the season. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong about that. But when I was looking at the guys there, that was the one that really kinda stuck out to me.
right. Well, you're looking at some of the guys available in the top 24 that maybe we like a little better. Jonathan
Yeah,
Taylor's going after him, right? Jonathan Taylor,
right.
you could say has running back one upside.
Mhm.
I think some of the other Kyron Williams going
Yep.
after him as well. There are other guys that are a little dicier in that range. I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to say the guy that's being drafted as running back one, Saquon Barkley, is the one
Ooh,
I'll least likely have, just because if I'm drafting first
yeah.
overall or second overall, I may well be going for a wide receiver. If I get
Yep.
outside that range, somebody else is likely taken Barkley. If they haven't, I still might take Bijan ahead of him.
Yep.
Now that he's out on the Madden
Ryan
cover, we've
Becker.
got the curse of the 3-7.
Oh,
Somewhere out there,
yeah.
Michael Fabiano is just reveling in all the curse action going on. The 370 touches, the 2,000 yards, the
Yeah,
Madden cover. But just in general, you're paying an historic season premium for
right.
a guy because you're paying that premium because it was a historic season. It's historic because
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often. And like I do love the workload, and I am drafting
for
past the
sure.
workload. I think Bijan, if he's a little cheaper, has a
Mhm.
similar path to workload. We saw it down the stretch last season.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of guys too that I feel like I'm not comfortable drafting in that top
Mhm.
24 that probably, I'll like I think they'll be okay. Travion Henderson is one. We'll see what happens with
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe that clears up a little bit.
Mhm.
Not 100% sold on him. I do think like some of the other rookies, Quinshawn Junkins and RJ Harvey, and like I'm a little bit dicey on Amari and Hampton sharing with Najee Harris too.
Right.
So maybe I'm getting some
Same.
of those later guys, but those are guys that are rounding out the top 24. If we're looking outside that, give me some value plays that you really like.
Oh gosh. Okay. And this is going to be just a little bit of a well, he hasn't been on my team for a couple of years now, but he's still one of my favorite Packers, and that's going to be Aaron Jones. Look, I know he's with our rival now, but I still love him. And look, did you know, Bob, that he played all 17 games last
I
season?
did. He
Yeah,
was
I mean, it's only
fantastic. Career
yeah,
highs and carries, touches.
exactly. And look, is he 30? Yeah. But hey, listen, I think he's still got some juice. I think we forgot how useful he is in the passing game. I think he had about 12% of all passing targets on the Vikings last year went to Aaron Jones, had the highest reception percentage on the team, not just in with running backs. We're talking like on the team there of guys, that had at least like 30 targets or so. We're not talking about somebody that came in and just had one. But I'll take him before guys like a Travion Henderson, like a Judkins, like
Sure.
a Caleb Johnson, like for sure a DeAndre Swift. I'm absolutely taking him. If I'm going to push running back, which I kind of tend to do, he's definitely one that I'm looking at going and grabbing.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think there are a lot of guys again in this range. Where we start delving into the ambiguous backfields, especially in best ball. But looking at
Mhm.
some of the guys that I think, like the guy that we right now that I think maybe is being overlooked is Isaiah Pacheco. Right,
Yeah.
came off the broken fibula week 2 last year. We had
Mhm.
a full workload before that, 19
Yep.
carries, then 15 carries, then the broken leg. Then came back, didn't look like the same guy. Well, that's
Mhm.
not unusual. It's the same
No.
year. I think coming back a full year later, he's going as running back 29. I think
Mhm.
I'll take some shots on him at 29. I'll take some
Oh,
shots
yeah.
on Brian Robinson Jr. as well at
Mhm.
running back 30. I also like Cam Skataboo a little bit. I feel like the
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy may not be enough to keep him off the field. His running style seems to fit in. By the way, Jordan Mason is going as running back 35. Is that a little bit too much of a handcuff premium if you're drafting Aaron Jones as running back 26?
So I think you have to worry a little bit, right? Because you had Tyson Chandler there last year who really didn't do hardly anything. And so I think that definitely helped Aaron Jones with his numbers. So now that you have somebody who's a little bit more of a capable backup coming in, yeah, does it give you a little concern, a little pause there? Sure. Speaking of though, Jordan Mason, he is one of my favorite guys to go get in the later rounds as well, because I think he's going to be really useful there in Minnesota. Him and Isaac Guerrero are two of the guys that if I'm going later, like I'm absolutely
Yeah,
grabbing.
and that was going to be the next point, guys going after the 100th pick.
Mhm.
Mason does fit that bill, right? So I think that's fair. Anyone else you like in that outside the top 100? Anyone you're tossing darts at?
Yeah, I've got a rookie for you. So speaking of Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City, I really like Rashard Smith coming in. I mean, you've
Okay,
got you've
Kansas
got
City.
Pacheco
That
there.
would ruin my Isaiah Pacheco.
I know. But here, just hear me out. Okay, so
Okay,
you've got Pacheco, right? And I listen, love Pacheco. Coming off that disappointing season, right? His running style, he's such an angry runner, right? And that volatile position, with running back. I love Brashard Smith there as somebody, who could really benefit in case something awful happens, right? You've got, Pacheco there, but you also have Kareem Hunt, who is not getting any
sure.
younger, so somebody to think about as well. And as far as depth goes, there's not really too much left there on the depth chart. So I think, Elijah Mitchell might be there as well, if I remember my depth chart correctly.
Yeah,
I
he
looked a
is
little earlier. He's still there.
for sure.
Yeah, so, I kinda like Rashard Smith. I think he's a young, fun rookie to kinda maybe take a little bit of a flyer on,
Yeah,
there at the end of your
I,
drafts.
I don't disagree with that. And I think my guy is going to be, I talked about this with Dave Kluge on the
Mhm,
Launchpad. You should listen to that if you haven't heard that episode this week, people. But Javante Williams is a guy I'll be drafting 115th overall, potentially clear path to workload. Might not work
mhm.
out. If I miss on him, I'm probably going to take some shares of Jaden Blue with the
Yep,
134th pick overall. And I could say the same about Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin in Jacksonville. Kind of similar prices. I
mhm,
think Etienne's 118 overall.
yep,
Tootin is going what 127 overall. So I think
yeah.
those guys are all great picks. All right, with the wide receiver, Stacey, we're going to go to the top 36 for
Okay.
players that maybe are considered frontline starters in
Yeah.
fantasy. What's the one you're not paying for in that range? It's a pretty wide open field, so take your pick.
Yeah. So I had so much trouble going through this and trying to pick one. And at first I was like, is it DK Metcalf? And then I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, no, that's probably right. He has
Right.
fallen quite a bit. And then I'm like, Calvin Ridley. And then I look at his numbers. No, Calvin Ridley still had 1,000 yards last year. I bet everybody forgot about that because I certainly did. But here's what I decided on was Marvin Harrison Jr., and it kind of pained me to do it, but I think he's wide receiver 14. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay. So
that's too high. I
it's
just
too high.
it's too
It's
high.
just too high. I mean, that offense is being run through Trey McBride, absolutely. Last season, Marv was 40, I think tied for 42 with points per game at 11.6, which is not what you want at your wide receiver 14. And he's super talented, and I loved him coming out of college. But look, Arizona's not an elite offense either. They managed 23 and a half points per game last season, and then they ranked 18th overall for total passing yards. So you don't have really a lot to be excited about in that passing offense there with Kyler to make you want to take, Marvin Harrison at 14 overall. I just think there's better options there.
Yeah, I'm looking now. He's moved to 15, but that's where I had him up till today. It was 14. I think
Ugh,
that's a
so
little rich for
high.
my blood. I'm probably not going to have a lot of shares of Tyreek Hill. Not that I don't think he can't rebound,
Same.
but he's going right in that same range. Rashee
Yep.
Rice, I mean, it's really appealing, but like Devontae Adams is going right after them, and I'd probably rather
Hmm.
have Adams than both those players.
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
Evans going after that,
Yep.
probably rather have him. So I'm with you. I'm probably out on Tedero McMillan at
Yeah.
cost 24 too, but I prefer taking him over Marvin Harrison, even though he's bulked
Yeah.
up and the year two leap is possible. I just don't know with Trey McBride there if he's
Yeah.
going to be able to make it. So
It's tough.
I'm kind of with you on this one. Let's look at some. I think the values are way easier.
Yeah.
Let's jump at that and then take a look at who you like as value plays, and maybe maybe your deep sleeper fits into
Yeah.
here as well.
It might. So my two values, I've got somebody who's a little undervalued, and I've got a guy that's I think just poised for a breakout, and they're both on the same team. It's going to be our two 49ers guys in Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. I think Ricky Pearsall is really poised for a breakout. I love Jawan Jennings at his price right now. I think he's wide receiver 36. You've got Ayuk who may not be there. He might be
Oh
traded.
no
Who
way.
knows what's going on with him? Debo's gone, right? So you're looking at the top two, number one and number two receivers there in San Francisco. Obviously, George Kittle's there. George Kittle's going to do George Kittle like things, But I just love these two, and between the two of them, or between actually Ayuk and Debo last year, they were targeted 125 times, which was 25% of the total targets for the Niners offense. So they throw fourth most yards in the per game last season. So I just don't think there's really any indicators showing that their offense is going to change that much. So now you're just going to plug in Jawan Jennings, plug in Ricky Pearsall, and I think these guys are going to absolutely light it up for you. And just you're going to come away with some great closing line value for these two.
Totally agree on both players. Like if I miss out on Jennings, I'm fine taking Pearsall
Yep.
later. I think there's a handful of guys that are pretty interesting. Chris Olave is probably being
Mhm.
underdrafted. I get it if you're fearful of the concussion history, the
Yeah.
change of quarterback. I think it'll be Tyler Shuck. You've got thoughts on the quarterback situation there in New Orleans that may keep you
Ooh.
away?
Yeah, so it really the injury thing with Chris Olave and the quarterback situation makes me real nervous to take any part of that offense other than named Alvin Kamara, and maybe in super deep leagues, maybe I'm going after a Devin Neal. But
It's
yeah,
fair.
I mean, those are really the only 2 that I kinda want at this point. I don't think I've taken any Olave so far.
There comes a point where the price gets too appealing for me, but there are also players going right after him. Debo Samuel, Jerry
Yeah,
Judy. If Joe Flacco is the
yeah,
quarterback
that's
in
key.
in Cleveland,
Yep,
all bets off. I'm probably gonna have a lot more Jerry Judy. Chris
yep,
Godwin. People apparently
yeah.
have forgotten that he was wide receiver
See?
2, 3 before his injury in week 7.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of guys. Khalil Shakir at wide receiver 42,
Mhm.
I think is a great pick. If Stephon Diggs plays, and we mentioned that there's issues, he did show up for voluntary workouts, which is a good
That's
sign. But
good.
going in the wide receiver 40 to 45 range seems like a pretty
Yeah.
good price. So that too is like it's a pretty rich environment. But I think the at the post 100, the outside the top 100, there's some
Mhm.
great plays there as well. I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag right now because I did it on the launch pad earlier this week. Adam Thielen's a guy that I will never be able to not resist if I like Bryce Young,
Yeah.
who, by the way, Adam Thielen was like what wide receiver 18, and
Yeah.
Bryce Young is a rookie throwing like what 10 touchdowns or 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And last year when Young came on, Adam Thielen came on
Mhm.
as well. I
Yep.
don't think he's washed quite yet, but there are
Mm.
others in this group. Who do you like outside the top 100?
Okay, so I got another rookie for you. It's gonna be and it's an undrafted free agent rookie as well. So I'm gonna give you Xavier Restrepo from the Tennessee
Oh,
Titans.
Tennessee.
He's one that I love. I think his 40 time at his pro day is kind of what caused him to fall out of the draft and end up being that undrafted free agent. But Cam Ward, it was one of his favorite targets there at Miami. He was Miami's all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. I think they've been really impressed with him there in Tennessee and the way that he's worked out so far. Super explosive, really great route runner. I'm just really excited about that connection that he has there with Cam Ward. I don't really love a lot that's going on that depth chart for the wide receiver room.
That's
And you got
true.
Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson. Hold on, James Prochet. What? Yep. Did you forget about him? I did too. But yeah, that's who he's got there to compete with. So I just think he's super talented. I think that connection really kind of gives him an edge. So he is definitely somebody that I've been taking, honestly, even before the draft happened, in my deeper leagues there at the end of drafts.
I think that's going to be an interesting offense. If they can get that thing rolling, there are some
Yeah.
interesting players there, including Restrepo. So that is interesting. I like I'm probably not like I think I'm taking chances on any number of players. He might be
Yeah.
like it's a free square play, so I'm fine with it. And I think this is like I don't know if this is a strength or a weakness. It's my approach. I tend to go with players that I've seen before,
Yeah.
and I think that there is like a totally an approach that says, hey, let's take a chance on this guy that's in a good spot. I'm trying to be more open to that, and I've tried to do
Mhm.
it more this year, but I end up getting caught up in my ways. I think probably closer to the season, I'll probably be end up doing more of the same. That's kind of like
Yeah.
you go into off season going, I'm going to try all these new things. You try them a little bit early on, and then as you go along and you're doing all your drafts, you got to curl back up into your defensive
Right.
ball of the habits that you've always fallen back on. All the lessons I learned last year go out the window, and I
Yeah.
jump in on the same old guys that I do. I love you, Adam Thielen. I'll never let go. Apparently, so
He won people weeks last year. I mean, like,
for
he was an
sure,
absolute stud. I have no issue with Adam Thielen.
for
I
sure. I
I
think
really
there's
like that offense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys in that universe outside
Mhm.
the we call free square plays. I think tight
Yeah.
end is a way trickier position this year if you're getting outside that top group. Let's go ahead and give
Yeah.
me a player in the top 12 you won't be drafting this year.
Well, okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna go as far as say I'm not gonna be drafting him, but I don't want him at his price right now, and that's gonna be TJ Hawkinson at tight end 5. Think it's a smidge too high for him. I think he probably does finish in the top 10 for sure. But look, you've got an offense here with a rookie quarterback, coming in JJ McCarthy. I know he's done it before, but he did it with Kirk Cousins the last time when 2023 at tight end 4. Kirk loved throwing to his tight end. We don't really know what JJ McCarthy is going to
Right.
do, what he's going to be, what he's going to look like. I have a lot of faith in Kevin O'Connell. I think he's our new quarterback whisperer, like him and Dave Canales, like we've got all those guys. But I just don't love Hawk at 5 right now. I think there's a few other guys I would take ahead of him, in that spot.
It's kind of been a shifting sands of him and Travis Kelsey going at that 5-6 range. Mark Andrews going at 7. I
Yep.
think you can make arguments against all of them. I'll
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I'll join you on the Hawkinson. I'm just not going to have a lot. I'm either going to be
Yeah.
drafting just before that group,
Yeah.
with Laporta kind of being the cutoff. It's
Oof.
Bowers. Not going to have a lot of Bowers. Again, the historic
Yeah.
premium does not appeal to me on him with all
He's
the
too
changes in
expensive.
offense. I still think he'll be fantastic, but that's a
Yeah.
second round draft capital when there's some really good players. I prefer Trey McBride,
Yep.
maybe a
Yep.
round later.
Mhm.
He's kind of sneaking into the tail end of the second round.
Yep.
George Kittle is the sweet spot to me.
Love
The
Kittle.
guy that you're getting is your tight end 3, well into the fourth round. I think
Yeah.
he's consistently puts up those numbers. Last year, he was
Yeah.
the highest tight end in average scoring per week. Sam
Yeah.
Laporta down the stretch was phenomenal. So I'll still be playing him. But I'm with you. This group right after
Yeah.
that, they're a little less appealing. I'm not counting on Travis Kelsey, not counting on
Yep.
TJ Hawkinson, not counting on
Yeah.
Mark Andrews. That whole group. Like I'm getting a lot of shares of Jonnu Smith as tight
Yeah.
end 8, but I feel like we're counting on last year's role to come through. And I think that I do think
Mhm.
Mike McDaniels will learn from that and do a lot of the same things, but I don't know if Tyreek Hill and Jalen
Yeah.
Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa won't have votes in that as well.
That's my worry, right, with the Miami offense for all those guys, not even just Jonnu, is that, like, what happens if Tua gets hurt again? Because I think they've shown they haven't really been able to make a situation where the incoming quarterback is going to be able to take over that offense and make those guys continue to be fantasy relevant. I'm not sure why that hasn't happened, but it just hasn't.
Right.
So it just worries me a little too much. But man, I do love some Jonnu Smith. He was great
I do
last year.
too. I've got way more, and I think we all like. I think everyone's going to be in on Evan Ingram, the new
Oh yeah.
Joker for Sean Payton.
Yeah.
I think they'll make him wear the makeup probably just because it's been talked about so much. But we know he can be a target hog in an
Yeah.
offense that we love. Bo Nix, if you
Yep.
think Cortland Sutton's going to be okay, that's fine. He'll be
Yep.
the lead target getter there. But thinking Evan Ingram at tight end 9, I like him a lot better than I like
Mhm.
those other guys. The two rookies.
Agreed.
Tyler Ward and Colston Lovin going 10, 11. David Njoku going 12.
Mhm.
I will have some shares of that, especially
Oh,
if
for
Joe
sure.
Flacco again is the quarterback. We
Oh,
saw
yeah.
that down the stretch in the comeback player of the year. I think Njoku was tight end 5
I've
down the
yeah,
stretch.
he's so productive. Love
Yeah.
Njoku.
Yeah, so that's a great play. Outside of that group, we get into the Tucker Craft, Isaiah Likely, Jake
Mhm.
Ferguson, Dallas Goddard, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts still there at tight end 18. I
Yep.
don't know why. Who do you like in that next tier? Who's going to be a value play for you?
Oh, Bob, you said it first. It's and his name is actually Tucker Kraft Mac and Cheese. That's how I like to
Oh,
refer
okay,
to him.
fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, they're at tight end 13. He ended the season last year as he led all tight ends in yards after the catch per reception, which is a fun stat that I found. Loved that 8.8 yards last year. And look, I know they added Golden, but look, Christian Watson is going to be out for a while with that ACL tear. Jordan Love is going to be fully healthy. They're going to have a whole nother year to kind of just build on that momentum. He's just so built in the style of a Kelsey and a Kittle. I know they all hang out at tight end U. I see a
Right.
lot of similarities in their play. And I really like Tucker Craft there. If I'm not going to go get one of those elite guys. I'm going to hold off a little bit. He's somebody that I know is going to have an impact on that offense. On an offense that is a little hard to predict, right? Like which guy is it going to be there in Green Bay? But I think Tucker Craft is going to be one of your more consistent players there.
I agree. And we're already outside the top 100 because
Yeah.
we were there when we got outside basically the top 12. You're
Yeah.
getting into that territory. I want to say Njoku's going in the 10th round of the
Yep.
123rd pick. Any deep sleepers at the position you like? There's some guys that I think are going
Yeah.
eerily late. The Zach Ertz, like I get he's getting old, but
Mhm.
it's tight end 19.
Yep.
Pat Fryermuth is tight end 20.
Mhm.
Mike Gesicki at 22. Hunter Henry at 23. Any of the guys you like in that
Yeah.
total kind of flyer, almost free square range?
Yeah, so I actually had Zach Ertz written down there, and look, guys, he's not dead yet, right? Zach
He's
Ertz is
not.
still alive and well, and he and Cliff Kingsbury are like this, all right? He had a great connection with Jaden Daniels. He had 8 top 10 finishes in fantasy last year, and sure, Debo's there, okay, but I don't think that that is going to be enough to make me shy away from taking Ertz as maybe a backup tight end, maybe somebody if I'm going a little bit later in drafts if I pushed it a lot. I think he finished as tight end
Tight end
7
11.
in total fantasy points in
Yeah.
PPR.
He was inside the top 12,
So
well
I,
inside.
he's absolute stud. You know who else I liked was Brenton Strange.
Me too. That was gonna be my
I
guy. I love it.
love me some Brenton Strange, especially now, Christian Kirk's out of the picture, Evan Ingram's out of the picture. You've got him hanging out there. Everybody's going to be focused on BTJ and Travis Hunter, and it's just going to open things up for Brenton Strange. Liam Cohen's there. I will not do the weird, cringy Duval thing. You
Do
can
it.
all look it up. I don't know. What is it like? Duval. It's
That was well
so
done.
it just makes me cringe every time I think of it. But yeah, I mean, for a guy that you can get at tight end 19 right now, I mean, all day long.
Yeah, he's well outside the range. I think he's
Yeah.
163rd overall, so basically out in free territory. Hunter
Yep.
Henry, I like in that same
Oh
range. I'll
yeah.
probably have a share or two of Mason Taylor if I'm going for
Mhm.
the rookie, some of the
Yep.
unprovens
Yep.
right there, just because of the clear path to workload.
Oh
All right,
yeah.
that's a pretty good group, Stacy. So
Mhm.
quarterback, Justin
Mhm.
Fields, not
Yep.
feeling good about him going inside the top 12.
No.
Jared Goff outside the top 12. Stacy loves him. Daniel Jones, the deep flyer at running back. Irving, a little overvalued. I like, man, Sean Tucker looks like he could play ball. We saw him for a game. I don't know if Rashad White's the guy, but I'm kind of with you on Irving. Aaron Jones, a guy that you feel undervalued. Rashard Smith in Kansas City, the deep sleeper. Marvin Harrison Jr., overvalued in the top 15 at wide receiver. Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall in San Francisco, value plays for Stacy. Xavier Restrepo in Tennessee is the deep sleeper, the sneaky win play for you, playing with Cam Ward as college quarterback. So
Yeah.
I get that as well. Hawkinson at tight end, TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota. JJ McCarthy taking over, a little worrisome. I agree with that. Tucker Kraft, I like as well. I was a little worried about Luke Musgrave. Been talking to some of the beat writers in Green Bay. They think Tucker Kraft has established himself, whether you
Yeah.
like the macaroni and cheese or not. Zach Ertz, the deep sleeper. We both like Brenton Strange an awful lot. Great stuff, Stacy Perez of
Thank you.
Fantasy and Frames and Player Profiler. Follow her on the X at Stacy_Perez83. What do you got coming up? What should people be looking for from you?
Yeah, so Bob, so we're doing actually right now on Fantasy and Frames, we're doing the draft show during the summer. We're doing drafts just about every week. We've got some fun Scott Fishbowl mock drafts. I think you're joining us for one of those coming up here in June. So we've got a lot of really fun things planned. I'm doing fantasy forecast over at Player Profiler. That's going on. That's just a real fun little 10-minute short every couple weeks or so. I do something, different, topic on whatever's going on in the NFL at the moment. So yeah, so got a lot of fun stuff going on this summer, but and I'm so excited for my Scott Fishbowl live draft coming up in July.
You and me both. And
Yep.
Stacy will be a semi-regular guest that you hear on Football
Ooh.
Diehards. My radio program on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio starts up again July 7th. We'll be on every weeknight from 8 to 11 or 8 to 10 this year instead of the 10 to midnight. So a little earlier nights. Usually catch me on Sunday on the pregame shows as well. Probably Saturday nights on NFL radio. By the way, Football Guys daily email update is up and running, people. You sign up for free, get the biggest stories in football. Summarized, explained, delivered straight to your inbox every day. Don't miss out on that. And thanks for tuning in. I'll see you back here next week for another episode of On the Hot Seat.